finding your composition. Here we are, historic site, Vosnoy. We've got old buildings, Lunahauge in the background, and we're going to find the best composition, thinking about foreground, background, thinking about leading lines, see how we can compose a shot, because it'd be pretty easy just to stand here, capture it all, and it's exactly what a tourist would do. But we're photographers, we're going to really hunt and work the scene and find the best composition for a great photo. So the first thing I want to do is bring my camera out, or you can use your phone, but I definitely leave the tripod unpacked, so you have the ability and flexibility to move the camera around to really find your angle. You can also do this with your phone, which is pretty easy, just to have your phone there and really frame it up. The other benefit we have this morning is there's no snow, so we can actually walk everywhere without disturbing the scene. Okay, let's go have a look. Like, I really like the huts, and we want the mountain in the background, and in this composition there's just too much going on. We don't really have a single focus. We have a foreground feature, which is the sort of old tree, but it's not good enough. I quite like these rocks and the moss. But there's no leading lines, there's nothing that really draws your eye in to the focus, and we really want to capture that peak in the background. At this stage, I'm really liking the textures on this hut. I like the stone. I'm liking the stones and the moss here. Thing is, we're seeing too much of the buildings around it, which doesn't isolate it enough. Like, often simpler is better. But here we go, as we get lower, we're actually blocking out the buildings around, and we're really giving focus to this one building here. We still get quite a nice foreground feature, the moss, the rock, and we can see the mountain. So that's looking like a promising composition. We also have the roof of the hut. If we get lower, that starts to act as another leading line that draws and points towards the mountain. I think that's pretty cool. Here again, there's just too much going on. There's nothing really acting as a good foreground feature and leading us into the peak. I'm liking these rocks. Let's see if we can use that. The moss on it's really nice. There's a bit of frost on the moss. But what would be really cool is if this wall acted as a leading line and took our focus into the scene, but it doesn't. It leads away, so that's not going to work. Alright, so we've definitely simplified it down to one building here. We've got the peak in the background. The building's more of a mid-ground feature, there's no real foreground we can use. The leading lines don't work too great. This composition, again, really cool texture in the wood. You can see it's old. We've got a bit of stone, we've got a bit of foreground, and this big tree framing the peak in the middle. I think we're going to have to get quite low and quite wide. I mean, the elements are here, but it just doesn't have everything. I think the one I liked the most was in the middle, where we really isolated the small hut. So we've come back to kind of the favorite shot I found. And as photographers, you can't move the object, so you really have to find the elements you want, find the things you want in the foreground, find your things, leading lines, and really design your picture by moving around and finding those elements. Getting high, getting low, it can change a lot, which is why we don't put the tripod on, because the tripod seems to grow concrete feet as soon as you get it out. give yourself some flexibility, move around and play with all the angles. So we'll grab a shot here. And moving on.